Welcome to Sin News, the Inside Gaming podcast where we talk all about the video game news. I am Brian, your host.
I'm Caden.
Hello, I'm Connor, and we're joined by a special guest. He's not forward, he's backwards. I don't know.
Whoa! It's me, Cole. How's it going?
Yay!
It's
thanks for
Cole.
joining us. Cole, tell us a little bit about yourself and for the fans, of course.
I am employed by Rooster Teeth Animation. I am an editor by day and a video game and anime guy in the sheets.
Awesome.
Which can be during the day, too. It just depends how you
Yeah,
feel.
it just depends. You go to bed too late, you wake up late, you know.
If you work
know it is.
nights, yeah.
That's right.
Afternoon nap, you know.
Well, let's talk about the news. We have had a lot of it this week. Maybe the big headline, though, Mixer is no more. It's shutting down. Microsoft made it official that they were going to close it up. I think its last day is next month, of late July.
July 22nd.
Okay. And yeah, and they are kind of redirecting everyone to Facebook Gaming as their preferred new platform, which of course most people have already said they're going to go to Twitch, or a lot of people at least. We've seen this coming, I think. Mixer's numbers have not risen ever since they got Ninja. But was anybody surprised by this? I don't know. I wasn't. I guess I was surprised at how quickly they pulled the plug.
The thing that surprised me, well, I say surprised me, it didn't really surprise me all that much, was that they didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
They didn't tell a single fucking person who worked there. None of the streamers. There was no hint of anything. Yes, we could see the numbers and everything going down, but also like, hey, you don't invest a ton of money into, poaching Twitch's, big boy Ninja and bringing them to your platform and be just like, we're planning on shutting down and letting Ninja run away with millions of dollars for no reason.
They
then just
allegedly
watching
gave him
your
$30 million. And I think Shroud got $10 million. So those two are
Jesus.
the big winners. Everyone else is not.
Yeah, they made
cool.
off.
How much are they giving their employees that they're laying off?
Right.
Fuck you.
Well, I
Employees
think,
laying off, other people who've started communities there. It's bad.
yeah,
People lost a lot of livelihood here.
Yeah.
That's
It was
a lot of livelihoods just gone.
there's a lot about the community, too, because tech companies, big ones especially like Microsoft, pulled the plug on these kinds of things with zero fanfare regularly. I mean, we saw it happen to Google+. Nobody cared about it, but they also discovered a security flaw, and instead of fixing that, they were like, it's good, it's gone. But I don't think I haven't seen a platform like this disappear quite so abruptly since Vine.
Yeah,
true.
no,
They did just
Vine's
pull,
a good example.
Yeah, which was a money thing. And they didn't really set up a lot of the creators on that platform to succeed beyond that. They were just like, we're done. And a lot of people just had to figure it out themselves because, that's what the difference is. Mixer had communities, regardless of how statistically impressive or unimpressive it was. There were people with communities, like you said.
People still used it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not a lot, but some people did. And people have commented to us online, oh, y'all just made fun of it, and now you're acting all bummed it's gone. We're not making fun of the individual streamers on Mixer. It obviously sucks that you build up your audience and now they're just gone. We're not making fun of people who lost their job. That sucks.
Yeah.
I think but yes, the idea that Ninja would just bring over all these fans with him, and he did bring some, but it was just a fraction of what he had on Twitch. I think he had 2 or 3 million on Mixer. But to act like he was just going to every viewer was going to be like, oh, Ninja's there. That's amazing. That's not how. The audience for everything is so atomized and so fragmented, even with streaming, that I just think they really misjudged the kind of allure that the real big names would have.
Yeah, and the Twitch ecosystem is all based around sharing Twitch.
Yes.
Like when you get done streaming, you go, oh, here's the next person you're going to go watch.
You
and that's
host
how
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And whenever you
Also-
take that piece out, it kind of the people aren't going to all of a sudden go, oh, well, I'll build that over here. They'll go, oh, well, I've spent me as a viewer, I've spent all my time building my library of viewers or streamers that I want to watch.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, the big piece is gone, but there's still the other pieces.
Also, Twitch had been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah.
Mixer, comparatively, super young, and I mean, this is done by Microsoft. It's the same way that it's like Google will do something or Amazon will do something. They'll try something for like 2 years, and if it doesn't like give a good it's like ROI, then you're done. It's like the entire thing is belly.
Yes.
I mean, there it
I think
is.
you meant to say Stadia.
Yeah, that's the blessing and the curse. The good part is, we've got this big giant company behind us. Yes, you do have some resources. They're also big enough to where they're not going to think twice about pulling the plug,
Right,
because
they're
they
just
can absorb that hit, and
Yeah.
it's not going to be that big of a deal for them. I think Mixer. I remember Alana saying that the actual technology behind it was great. The latency was almost non-existent. So it had a lot of positive things, but yes, when you're coming into a space where there's already like an entrenched leader like Twitch was, that's just really, really hard. I mean, Google tried it with Google Plus against Facebook. There's some other Bing. Microsoft tried it with friggin' Bing on search.
They're still trying it.
Yeah, they're still.
They're trying.
Bing is
they're not doing anything, but they're definitely trying.
Bing is the default browser or default search engine on their new browser, which is built on Chrome's browser tech. It's built on Chromium. It's all Google.
Fantastic.
It's just stealing other people's stuff.
Right. They tried it with Windows phones. They've tried it. I mean, they've tried it with a lot of things, and it's hard to get. It seems like the move is to do what Amazon did and just buy Twitch. Like it rises up, it gets popular, and then you swallow it up. And Twitch has had a lot of issues, to say the least. They've had a lot recently.
Definitely.
But it does feel like they are still looked at as the default streaming service. Like when I think of streaming, I think of Twitch first, especially like live kind of game streaming. And that brand identification is just invaluable for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's a question. Who do you think of second?
YouTube, I
YouTube.
guess. Yeah.
Yep, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Rooster Teeth TV.
YouTube, I think of people posting clips, though. And I know you can stream live. Like, I know that's possible. But I still think of YouTube as like, let me figure out how to get past this one part in the game. I'll look it up on YouTube. If I think of a game like, I want to watch somebody play Xenoblade Chronicles to see if I want to buy it, I go to Twitch.
Or if you're like,
Also,
I wonder if anyone has any thoughts on the new Phil Spencer quotes. Is there any show that would be talking about that?
Yeah.
That's right. A hot gaming news show.
Is there a podcast that goes along with that show that might be very good? I wonder if we can find that on the internet somewhere.
I also feel like a lot of YouTube's numbers are padded by the fact that it's YouTubers streaming on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like you see like PewDiePie, you see like Game Grumps, you see people who are already well established in YouTube saying, hey, you want to see how the sausage gets made? Here's us playing the game direct to you.
How the sausage gets made. What a great analogy. But in that vein, like, that's why Mixer was kind of great, because it was a big name, a big player in all of this. It was backed by Microsoft, and it didn't have that like huge, I should say, the huge like hurdle to jump over to get more noticed in, like, say, Twitch or YouTube. This was a brand new platform for people to jump into. People grew and they created their own communities very naturally and very honestly. And it was like a much more attainable goal. Like if you had like 100 people on Mixer watching you versus 100 people on Twitch, 100 people on Mixer is a lot of people.
That's half of Mixer you've got right there.
Versus 100 people on Twitch, you're just like, oh, that's okay. Maybe I'll get partner. Maybe they will, the lords of Amazon will look favorably upon me this time when I submit my application for partner. Oh, nope, not again. But
You're
Mixer
right.
was just like,
you can be a
partner for
bigger
everybody.
fish in a smaller pond. Yeah,
Exactly.
At Mixer, yeah, and they had integrated it in Facebook and Xbox's operating system. I mean, there was a whole Mixer, tab you could go over to, and it just. I think they had some. I think there were some good ideas, but it's just one of those things. There wasn't enough room for as many players as there in that space. And I think that they kind of started this arms race for talent after they snatched Ninja up. And then you saw everybody like PewDiePie signed a deal with YouTube. And you saw kind of this gold rush for about 6 months there.
Facebook gaming people locking up.
Yeah.
What did they do? What did they do with it? Nothing. They successfully accomplished nothing by throwing a ton of money at a known person rather than investing in their own community that was already naturally building. They could have done so much more with this, and it could have been way better, but they decided we need an immediate success now. And the way to do that is Ninja big, bring to Mixer. And it's like, this is a Band-Aid for a broken arm.
I also think they wanted to use it to promote Xbox things. Like, I think they wanted to be able to say, hey, look, we're releasing we're releasing Gears of War. Here's Ninja playing Gears of War. And this is this is how we're going to build the brand. And I just don't think they had enough. They didn't commit enough to that.
Do you think Mixer would have succeeded? Like, let's say they gave them 2 more years. Do you think it would have grown to the point to where it became kind of successful, or at least a player in its own right if they had given? Because, boy, when they compared April of this year versus April of last year, everyone else had grown by leaps and bounds. They were dead last. They had grown by 0.2%. And this was in the middle of the pandemic when everybody was locking down and playing video games and watching video games. My guess is maybe Microsoft just looked at that and be like, you know what, if we can't make it work right now, when everyone's stuck at home, it's just not going to work.
I mean, I hate to use the word unprecedented because honestly, it needs a break after the past couple months, but it was an unprecedented boost. I mean, you don't get that kind of everybody's watching live streaming now. Live streaming is having a renaissance. And so I think if you're just looking at it cut and dry, it's just like, well, more people than ever are watching live streaming. There probably won't ever be a boost like this again in such a short span of time, and nobody watched it on Mixer.
Right.
But I also didn't hear of Mixer doing anything to help, because I think of when Twitch started the quarantine, they had the Valorant stream key going on. They had the, hey, you want to play this new game that's coming out, you got to watch Twitch streams. And that just helped build their ecosystem more. Yeah. There was nothing for that for Mixer that I knew of. If there was, then it wasn't publicized enough for me, a person paying attention to the gaming sphere, to know, hey, Halo's coming out eventually. You want the first look at Halo, you got to watch these streamers. Here, Ninja's going to play Halo, you got to watch. So that kind of stuff, without doing anything to try to build Mixer, given 2 years, I don't think there'd be any difference. I think it would have still been the same. But if it's done more to maybe incentivize people to give Mixer a chance, because I mean, we have a bunch of Mixer streamers that I know is they all speak very highly of what some of the stuff that was going on in the platform that Twitch didn't have.
Yeah, that's a good point about sort of promotion or using. God, you would think Microsoft definitely has the money, and and with the Xbox connection that you couldn't, I don't know, give them something exclusive, to go over to Mixer and check it out, like with the Valorant thing on Twitch. Yeah.
I mean, they could have done it with Minecraft Dungeons. Minecraft Dungeons just came out.
Yeah.
Say, hey, you want to be Minecraft Dungeons first? Here.
Speaking of giving them something, Mixer viewers with outstanding Ember balances, channel subscriptions, or Mixer Pro subscriptions will receive Xbox gift card credit.
Just what you wanted.
What an insult to injury. It was just thanks for investing your time and money into these, fledgling talents and all the things that they're doing. Here's a fucking gift card.
And that's Caden, that's a good way into what benefit do people get by going to Facebook over, they're offering the partners $2,500, but for viewers even, it's well, here's an Xbox gift card. It's almost saying we get it if you don't want to go to Facebook. Really, it's okay. Here, just play a Mario. Okay.
It's why so many of them are just well, we joined Mixer because it was a much easier way to grow and become, these different things. And like I said, it's just it's a much easier way to grow organically because, again, you will have since the pond is smaller, it's easier to grow a little bit because you're not, fighting, sharks like Ninja. Then they brought Ninja in and then everything kind of went to shit. But now it's just okay, well, where do we go from here? We have YouTube, ugh. We have Facebook, ugh. And then we have Twitch, which is the less of them all, sort of. And you're going to end up having a bunch of people going either back to Twitch or joining in Twitch for the first time after being a big Mixer person. They're just like, guess I have to start over all over again, because and I can't see a majority of the Mixer people being just like, Facebook gaming is where I want to be.
No, and they're like, Facebook and its huge audience. It's like, yeah, they're here for Facebook. They're not here to watch video games. Also, I would
I'm
imagine
sorry,
so much
somebody's grandmother isn't going to watch.
Right. So much of their audience on Facebook skews older. They have no interest in watching gameplay stuff, and
a lot of non-English speaking people too.
Right. Speaking of the talent on Mixer and the streamers, it was so sad to watch these shots of people hearing the news and crying, and just I did feel really bad for them, because I do think people get very attached to their streamers, and vice versa with the community, of just that it's going away. It really did, as cynical as I am, it really did get to me.
Phil Spencer's quote is depressing. We started pretty much far behind in terms of where Mixer's monthly active viewers were compared to some of the big players out there. You're Microsoft. You know how to advertise. You know how to push these things. You know how to grow organically. You just want it now, though.
Based on their track record, do they? I mean, I'm seeing it here. They did the same thing with Spotify, where they had Groove Music, and then they partnered with Spotify. Like,
Microsoft's whole thing has been compromising with the companies they originally went to bat with.
It's true.
Or not to bat with, that they went up against. Like Chromium being the engine for their new browser, Spotify and Groove Music, they're running Android on their new phones. It's just constant realizing who they have to work with to make what's already working continue. Like, I mean, they can do hardware. They can do that.
Even how Xbox is working, like Xbox is slowly morphing into a PC.
Yeah.
Which
they know how to do.
I do think this has been, as of late, a rare misstep from Microsoft, because I do think they've been doing some good stuff with Game Pass, with the Xbox One, with the rollout of the Xbox Series X. I know that last game presentation wasn't great, but I think they had been kind of riding the ship. And Mixer just seemed like something that was always going to be a long shot. And I think these companies have that sort of mentality of, if we're going to fail, let's fail fast. Okay, let's stop throwing good money after bad here, and we'll just get out of it.
Very disappointing.
Yeah, there's Facebook, though.
Yeah, that's the weird thing for me. It's like, you decided to go with Facebook. Of all the people, of all the three choices you have, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, you probably weren't going to go with Twitch. But YouTube could have been very viable for them.
But it's all about that xCloud integration. Amazon has its AWS and game studios. YouTube has Stadia. It's not working now.
And then Facebook has
xCloud now.
Now it does.
Yeah. So that's just it, I think, as far as I understand it.
All right. Well, let's move on, unless anybody else has some more Mixer thoughts. But
I don't know.
What can you say at this point?
I just don't want to have to put in my birthday and hometown to watch somebody play a video game.
Facebook is bad. Yeah. Don't go to Facebook.
No. Exactly. All right, let's talk about The Last of Us Part 2. It's obviously had some controversy, a lot of online backlash. Did not affect sales. It has smashed sales records over in the UK, at least. And we always get these from every new game. Whenever a new game comes out, it's number one in the UK. Well, no shit, it's a new game. But this one did, The Last of Us 2 did, I think, differentiate itself. They said it has been the fastest selling release for Sony this generation, beating out Uncharted 4. Now, we're just talking about packaged physical sales here, but still, beating out a game from 2016 in terms of physical sales, that's no small feat. 76% higher launch sales than the first Last of Us on the PS3. It is also the biggest UK launch for any boxed game release this year so far. 40% higher than Animal Crossing New Horizons, but the caveat there, Animal Crossing released during the pandemic, probably more digital. Still, though, I think the ultimate point here is there was a lot of online kind of grumbling about this game, but I think at the end of the day, it just goes to show that your average game buyer does not really care about that. They see The Last of Us 2 for sale.
Yeah,
I'm going to buy it.
I mean, more than anything, it's like controversy. It's like not the worst controversy, so it's people buy it. Like people want to see what the deal is.
Yes, that's a good point.
I'll put out my controversial statement. I think it's a good video game.
Have you played it? Are you,
I'm like 7 or 8 hours in, and it's good.
All right, there you go. Connor approves.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm not surprised that it sold well, especially because, when more people start talking about a game on social media, then it starts popping up more in other people's feeds. And when it starts popping up in more in other people's feeds, then people start seeing ads for it. And it's the great, the great algorithm that feeds us all. Yes. And it just funnels anybody who's just like, oh, hey, that's right, that game's coming out. Bye. And then they don't think about it. And then the game comes in and it's just like, hooray, I have game. And then that's it.
That's a good point. Yeah, they're just like, oh, Last of Us 2. Oh, yeah, that's okay.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, you got to take a look at the trending tab on like Twitter or any social media, and people see a name and then they click on it for a second, then they walk away. But the fact that was there for a second, that's the thing that burns into their brain. It's like, oh, The Last of Us 2 is trending. Oh, The Last of Us 2 is a game that is coming out. Now I remember. And that's it. That's the big takeaway for those things.
They've done studies with that with I think like politicians too. Like when they start trending, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It just matters if they're trending and that their name's out there.
Name recognition.
That's a good thing regardless. Yeah.
I was it's so weird because there's so much division in my mind between PlayStation and the rest of Sony. But I was driving by the Sony studios yesterday in LA, and there's just big Last of Us 2 posters up, and it's like, oh, right, that's the same company. Yeah. That's so strange to see.
Yep.
I'm also trying to think, is this it's like Animal Crossing and this are the two big releases of quarantine so far, right?
Doom Eternal. Yeah.
Doom Eternal was right there at the beginning,
And Satisfactory came to Steam.
Oh, who could forget? My apology.
Alex, did Halo or Half-Life Alex?
Half-Life Alex was prior to quarantine, wasn't it?
Did it? I think it was like just barely.
I don't remember because I don't have a VR headset, and as cool as it looked,
March 23rd, so it was right at the
right there,
in there.
It's just in there, which is unfortunate.
Like you said, it also has the caveat of VR.
Right,
so
exactly.
So
the fun thing about that, this whole article about the Last of Us 2 smashing sales records and everything like that, is Ring Fit Adventure 31% up. Week on week.
Hell yeah.
I think they just
finally got mine.
Oh, you did?
I finally got mine.
Yeah, Cam Hawkins just got his. He was on Insight Gaming.
Gyms are closed.
A couple weeks ago.
You want to have fun while working out?
That's right.
Upgrading from a Wii Fit to a Ring Fit Adventure. That's what I'm all about.
I had a Wii Fit that was just an expensive scale. Yeah.
It was a fun family toy that we had. Yeah. It was awesome to do the snowboarding and the hula hooping.
I'm really interested to see overall, though, how The Last of Us 2 sales did, in general, because your point earlier, Brian, is like, it's 40% higher than the previous best, which is Animal Crossing New Horizons, but I don't know anybody who owns that game physically. Like, I don't know a single person.
No, because it was all the stores were closed down. So yeah, I think it was that's a big digital seller. I'll be interested to see how much Last of Us 2 ultimately sells. Will it have legs? Or did everybody just go and buy it? Who was going to buy it that opening day or opening week? I don't know. Sure, it sold more than the first Last of Us. It's now an established brand. It's on a much bigger platform than the PS3 was. So I think it has some things going for it.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the highest strength of the PS4 too.
Yes.
I mean, everybody who's wanted to get a PS4 pretty much has one. And unlike a lot of other games, it runs really well on the launch hardware. To my shock and awe.
Good. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It looks good. I mean, yes, the PS4 launch sounds like a jet engine. That's the meme, but it works. It plays and it's gorgeous looking. Like it's kind of like GTA 5 was for that PS3, Xbox 360 generation of just pushing as far as you can within reason. Right. So I think people, one, it's a landmark release. It's a household name now. And also it is the biggest name on the biggest second best-selling console, right? Short of the PS2.
Yeah, that's right.
I believe so. Yeah.
Not counting
so I mean,
portables, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's set up for success. I mean, like, it would have to be awful to not capitalize on that.
And it kind of had this, it has had this window to itself. There hasn't been any other big games out. And to your point, Connor, about PS4 too, I feel like there are a lot of PS4 owners, they might be out of stuff to play. So then, you know, it's like, oh, cool, because they've already played whatever they're going to play on it.
Right.
You know, they might have some standbys. They might play Destiny still or whatever, but they might have kind of burned through all the other exclusives at this point.
Right. For a lot of people, this will be the last game they buy on their PS4.
Right. Exactly. This is a classic late in a console's life cycle game. And usually those are the better ones because they've figured out how to use the hardware to the max. Mm-hmm. You know, it's always a good sweet spot for a game to release in.
Although I will say, and this is the last thing I need to say, I don't want to cut anyone else off, but I do love that since they're a Sony studio, they've had to do the gimmicky controller shit, like swipe the touchpad to strum, or like your flashlight's running out, better shake your controller, and it's like, no, stop it, nobody's used this.
You think Sony made them do it?
Yes, absolutely. I remember infamous Second Son. Was you had to graffiti, so you held the controller sideways, shook it, and then held down the trigger button like it was, and then you sprayed with the motion controls. And it was just like, what are we doing? This is so stupid.
Can you make use of PlayStation Move at all?
Just let me move my stick and press a button.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
All right, let's move on. Another huge announcement, Pokemon Unite. Huge, not popular because nobody liked it, but they announced a new Pokemon game. They had a special Pokemon Presents all to itself. It had been hyped up for a whole week, and then we find out we're getting a Pokemon MOBA. I don't think anyone wants this, but Caden, you are the number one Pokemon fan, so I want to hear from you first.
Okay, well, first off, nope, didn't like that. Cole and I were doing a live stream of this. We woke up extra early for it, jumped on to Inside Gaming's channel on YouTube.
Yeah, let's do it.
We were just like, we had speculation. It's like they said this was going to be bigger news than new Pokemon Snap, which... Come on, you set the bar like that, you're going in for like a Gen 4 remake or a Let's Go Johto or something like that. Some sort of teaser
people
announcement.
Have been asking for. Yeah.
Exactly. What ensued, however, was the trailer announcement for Pokemon Unite, which is you know what? Fine. You want to make a Pokemon MOBA? Totally fine. Not better, not a bigger announcement personally. I don't think anybody really thought that based off of, let's take a look. The Pokemon Presents number 4 on trending on YouTube. I wonder why. 79,000 likes, 138,000 dislikes, and that's on the Presents version of it. The re-upped trailer, which is just the 58-second trailer for the game, is about 50-50. It's 20,000 likes and 24,000 dislikes.
I saw that, but I feel like they messed with that a little bit because the ratio was a lot worse on the day.
Oh, you think?
That one
yeah,
also,
absolutely.
That's also a new Pokemon game announcement came out yesterday, under 1 million views still.
Yes. It's under, not only, yeah, the actual view of the Presents is 2.4 million views on the Presents itself, which they still have up.
But yeah, the little trailer, the little 58-second trailer, 840,000.
840,000 and 50-50 dislikes. Ultimately, you know, if they had just been like, if they had lumped this in. They had, okay, here's what I said on stream, and I stand by this fully. They announced this first, then do what they did last week, this week. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Everybody's just like, oh, cool, it's a Pokemon MOBA. Hey, we'll have more Pokemon news for you next week. Then they come out with, hey, new Pokemon Snap this week. Nintendo's riding high. Pokemon Company's just like, we win. It's great. Everybody will be really happy. You know, you set up new Pokemon Snap and everything else in that first little mini Pokemon Direct thing, and they'll be fine. Then there's the elephant in the room of Nintendo partnered with Tencent.
Right.
Tencent Games to make this.
So awesome.
This.
No.
Fuck this.
It's got a.
That's my line. This is my absolute line.
Fuck this?
No, I'm not. It's
okay.
like, this is the Pokemon game. The first Pokemon game I'm 100% skipping. Completely.
The announcement cadence of having the very positive, very big,
Yes.
impactful Pokemon Snap,
Right.
and then following it up a week. It's got very like freshman at a party vibes of like,
Yeah.
they like, oh, I know how to chug, and they chug like a beer, and everyone's like, yeah, that's awesome. This freshman chugged, and then they're riding high, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it again, and they grab instead of a beer, a bottle of, I don't know,
Jaeger.
Everclear.
Everclear.
Yeah, that's right.
Absinthe.
And they're just like, everybody, remember when I chugged? And everyone's like, yeah, and he's like,
No.
watch this.
No.
And then everybody
Yeah.
forgets that first chug.
Yeah, and then like
Yeah.
3 years later, and it's like, well, remember when you got your stomach pumped, and like before that, everyone
You
loved
almost
you,
died, dude.
and then that's all everyone remembered.
right.
Yes, I do. Yes, I remember.
Yeah, this was a total marketing and packaging problem, because I totally agree. You put this in with a bunch of other games, it's fine. Everybody's like, whatever, it's not for me, but I'm not going to be mad about it. It's like if you just put Pokemon Kitchen Cafe or whatever by itself and built it up for a week, and that's all you talk about. People are like, I don't want this. Like, why did you make me get up early in the morning to watch this? So yeah, I maybe Tencent said no, it needs its own thing. Maybe
that's
everybody.
exactly where-
maybe they just
Yep.
thought everybody would be jazzed about a new MOBA in 2020, but they were wrong.
I completely, that's what it is. It really was like Tencent's just like, you're going to tee it up for us. You're going to do your announcements. Then you're going to come in and you're going to be like, all right, now here's this new partnership we have with Tencent Games, and here's this game. It's just like, you didn't need them to do this. You have the money, you have the developers, you have the ability. You're doing this specifically because, one, you're partnering with the biggest, one of the biggest companies in China for this market. Probably, no, arguably the biggest, company.
100%,
Yeah,
yeah.
the biggest for this stuff. And you're trying to break into the Chinese market so that you can expand your profits and everything like that. On a business sense, yeah, it makes total logical sense. On an ethical sense, fuck you.
It might actually be the
You mean,
second biggest. Not to throw a wrench into anything, but
regardless, it's like they didn't need this. They didn't need this. If they really wanted to break into China, and they have been trying to break into China for a very long time with any of their games, it's very difficult to do, and they have so many rules and regulations.
Right,
It's like,
right.
But it's like there's so much money there, and that's what they're looking at. It's
Pikachu
like, rather than
legally
they-
has to become a communist if they want to go to China. Like, there's a
And
lot of red
fucking-
tape, so to speak.
It's just so
Very
so
nice.
frustrating to have them kind of just. It's weird to say Nintendo kind of sold out, but Nintendo kind of sold out.
Well,
it's weird to say.
they get into China, and the other thing is, if they were going to take Pokemon in a different direction, they should do what everyone has always wanted and make an MMORPG out of Pokemon.
Thank you.
Which would instantly be a huge, massive hit. But no, they saw how Pokemon Go did. They've been trying ever since to make another one. It just felt very, very tone deaf. But all that being said, I'm sure it's still going to do fine. They'll probably play the shit out of it in China and other places too.
China, I mean, I also feel like it's going to do well here amongst people who are like not hardcore. Because I mean, this was an insult to the hardcore Pokemon fans. There's like people who are just like into MOBAs who are like, oh, cool. Like, I like Pokemon. I get to play as Charizard. Hell yeah, let's do it.
Right.
Like, yeah, I agree. I think it was a stream intentionally for China that we had to sit through. But
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, the mobile market is massive there. It's not like over here, or in other parts. So yeah, they're clearly going after that market, and I'm sure it'll be very successful, like everything else they do. But that doesn't mean we have to like it.
Maybe
Okay.
that's
Who's
what it
excited
is.
for excited for everybody's next Pokemon announcement, which is Pokemon Battle Royale?
Right. Right.
Right,
Except
Squirrel
they still
Squad,
have
where we dropping?
guns.
Yeah.
I look forward to a Pokemon RTS game next, just while they're
Oh my
jumping
gosh.
on
I
these
mean, that I could
hot
see.
genres. Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would work, and so would a battle royale, and so would and honestly, so does a MOBA. But partnering with Tencent has some really, really shitty, ethical, connotations
Well,
going
they
along.
own
with
I
it.
everything
think
now.
I think if they had partnered with Tencent and made a Pokemon visual novel, people would have a lot less trouble grappling with the corporate gray area. I think they would
Assuming
be
the
like,
fans haven't.
there would be less of like, this is sort of a bummer. They would be like, well, by whatever means necessary, right?
Assuming that there aren't already a million fan Pokemon visual
I get to date
novels.
Jigglypuff? Sign me up.
A visual novel where you have to enter in your birth date, your social security number,
Right.
and your
Yeah.
favorite piece of intellectual property from your home country.
How Doom wants to know the make and model of your first car.
We need the last four of your social. We need your mother's maiden name.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Xbox Series X. You might remember the next gen is here. Well, it's almost here. PS5 had their big reveal event recently. Phil Spencer was at the Game Lab Live conference this week. He was asked about the PS5 reveal, and he was like, "Oh, I thought they did a good job. It's fine. Yeah, it's good for them." It was definitely damning them.
If
with
you're into
faint
that kind of
praise.
thing.
Yeah, and said, here's kind of the money quote. Just being honest, I felt good after seeing their show. I think the hardware advantages we have built are going to show up as we're talking more about our games and frame rates and other things.
Wow, boom, got him. just like the most smirkiest, smarmiest.
Yeah, I'm not worried. We scouted the opponent. We'll be fine.
Congratulations, little Timmy,
Yeah.
on your little tiny plastic console. Would you like to see our giant monolith again?
The thing is, I noticed he didn't say, and of course they didn't announce it at the Sony, but he didn't say price.
Right.
Nope.
So if
No
you're,
price just yet.
If you're including all these better games, frame rates, and other things, does that come with a heftier price tag?
Well, but allegedly, Microsoft is going to wait for Sony to announce the price and then just undercut them with the Xbox Series X because I mean they're huge. They are this is the plus of being a big corporate behemoth. They can take a big loss that Sony can't. Sony's nowhere near as big as Microsoft.
Yeah, and they have all that cash now that they're not spending however much they spent on Mixer.
No, they gave that all to Ninja.
Right. They get blue hair and a headband, $30 million. They got money.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I would love to know how much it'll cost because I was so set on the PS5 after their announcement because I thought it was a very good event. And I also am really excited about Spider-Man and will be excited about God of War when that comes. But then I remembered today he's talking about their hardware advantages, and sure, fine, whatever. I'm playing Last of Us 2 and loving it on a PS4 launch. So I'm not that worried about hardware. But then he talked about the games, and I remembered all those first-party studios that Microsoft has been acquiring. And I know, like, in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't know what that IP is, so I'm fine with missing it. But I'm going to see stuff, and I'm going to be like, that looks cool. That looks really cool, and I'm going to want to play it. And I hope that a lot of it comes out on PC because I really don't want to be in a position where I want to buy both consoles. Because I won't be doing it in the same year.
It does seem like you do kind of have to pick one and go with it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, I always end up using one a lot more than the other.
we did get a teaser for Halo the other day. And
millions of people watched it. Yeah, in the first few hours. And so, there's still some life there. I mean, people, and they've been buying up a bunch of studios. I mean, I think they know what they're doing and they've learned from their mistakes, and Game Pass is great. And they're talking about maybe integrating Game Pass with Project xCloud. So, I mean, this is a better Microsoft in terms of the Xbox division than it was.
They're playing smarter. I mean, they bought Compulsion Games in 2018. They bought Double Fine in 2019. In Exile Entertainment in 2018. Ninja Theory 2018. Obsidian Entertainment in 2018. Playground Games in 2018. And Undead Labs in 2018. That's what State of Decay. They fully own everything. The subsidiary studio that worked with Turn 10 on Forza, which was Playground Games. Obsidian that did stuff like the Outer Worlds. Almost said Outer Wilds. It's not the same game.
They own
Mobius
too, don't they? Maybe not actually. I think I'm wrong.
Let's see. I mean, and again, they own Mojang, which is like Minecraft is the best-selling game of all time.
That was worth every $2 billion or however much they paid for it.
Yeah, to get Notch out of there and also to own the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a forever
Win-win.
game. Minecraft's going to be around 20 years from now. Yeah, they'll just
It's on everything. I mean, you could play it on your freaking fridge, man. Come on. That's so weird. But
it was kind of interesting, too. And I wanted to mention this. Someone also asked Phil, like, what the biggest difference is going to be between the current gen, because the graphics have gotten. I mean, they're already good. I think the question was basically, what's going to be this jump from next generation? What are we going to notice most? And he basically said shorter load times, better frame rates. His direct quote, we're able to get to almost lifelike graphics today, even on current gen in certain instances. But when you take it and you mix it with a very high frame rate, very little latency in input, so basically he's saying it's not going to break the immersion as much, which I think is an excellent point. And I think Sony's been talking about that a lot too with load time. So it's almost like it feels like this generation is going to kind of refine what the current generation started.
But how will I take a drink of my soda every time? How will I have proper time to go to the bathroom in between load times?
Yeah, when am I gonna open up Twitter and then realize the game loaded 25 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Right. And I've been getting my face bashed in this whole time.
Yeah, like, what's that sound?
Well, there
I'm
goes
losing.
the no death run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is this the big leap forward that everybody expected with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X based off of what we've seen so far? Is this what you wanted? Is this what you expected?
I don't know.
Journalistic integrity, Brian. I have no idea. Fuck it.
I think I'm just tired, man,
Right? Yeah. They promise every generation that it's going to be the next big thing, and then for the first year or so it's the same. And then you start to see some things trickle in.
What was the biggest leap for you? Like personally, what was the biggest, like from this to this? What was that big, like, wow, they actually like made this the next biggest thing ever?
For me?
Like, I'm so amazed.
For me personally,
for everybody.
Switch. Going from a TV console that can be to something you can pick up and go ride a bus or go, like, I could be playing a console game in the morning, hop on a plane and still be playing that same console game later.
That's fair.
It's amazing how much I use my Switch, way more than I thought I would. And I say that as, a Nintendo fanboy, but I think for me, it was the jump to 3D. I mean, games like Mario 64, and then when, the PlayStation came out and sort of moving from 2D to 3D, at the time it was just like, holy crap. And I don't think those aren't possible anymore, or not to the degree that it was. The only thing I can really think of is like VR, but that's kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
I do worry about these next gen games, though. It's like the graphics get better. Everything's more complicated to develop. It's going to take longer. It's going to take more money. And we're hearing warning signs. Sean Layden at that same conference said, AAA games now, most of them cost between 80 and 150 million to develop. He was, people have said it's not sustainable. He kind of agreed, and it's like, it can't go up that much more from that when we're talking about the next generation. And he kind of called for almost like pulling back, like, let's get back to the 12 to 15 hour AAA game. I would be fine with that, actually.
Absolutely. It's so fascinating for somebody who was so deep in the industry and for years had to just beat PlayStation's great and everything we're doing is great.
Yeah, he oversaw Last of Us 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he oversaw like a hugely successful portion of time for the company. And to hear him be the person saying, none of this is sustainable in the long term. We need to rethink. I mean, like, Think about if every movie, indie and otherwise, maybe not indie, but if every movie was shot in IMAX 3D, 48 frames per second with Robert Downey Jr. You can't do it. You can't do that with everything. You can't have that be Endgame. You can't have Portrait of a Lady on Fire starring him in 4D. You have to, and that's not a bad thing. It's about the stories you want to tell, and I think if once we stop setting these we as if I have
the
any
royal
say in
we,
it, but the royal we once we stop setting these arbitrary like benchmarks of like, oh, everything needs to be stepped up. Like, I think I think people will come around, and I think it'll make a lot more sense. Like, I think they could release. Personally, I think. Like The Last of Us, it took so long to craft this game because it was from the ground up and everything's new and the gameplay is new and the experience is new. But also, like, I'm excited to see what they do with DLC, because sometimes to make an iteration, an update, you do a story. You have the assets, you have the game already, and I think that could be just as impactful to have another long experience in that world with those mechanics and that gameplay. So I don't think it has to be such an incredible boost every time. I think
you don't need to ground up every single time. And in that same way, it's just like some of my favorite experiences in gaming over the past 10 years have been much more lower budget indie projects. I've been I played more indie games over the past 10 years than I've played AAA games in general. Like I've still played a bunch of AAA stuff and I've still enjoyed them all, but my biggest big memory ones, I mean, they're all indie. I mean,
I do think there's something to be said for just a tightly made game. Because one of the things I don't like about modern AAA, the big sort of open world games, is you can tell when it starts to get padded, and it's like, well, yeah, we could go fight the last guy, but before that, what about if we go on vacation, or just there's some sort of side, or we go to a whole different biome or something.
Red Dead did that, and I don't think it was done poorly, but I was also like, why is this here?
Yeah, you're right.
Why are we doing this?
Let's go to Mexico now. Yeah,
or wherever they went.
With a tight direction, you don't need all the bells and whistles. I mean, like kind of the cadence point, I was thinking like, what are some games that to me have stuck out over the past few years? Like Five Nights at Freddy's, monster success. Like, and it look this way, look that way. Like, or Undertale, like. You're saying like these indie darlings that
Stardew Valley,
Stardew Valley, absolutely.
Shovel Knight was another really good one. Like these are like
Outer
Dead
Wilds
Cells was amazing.
Hollow Knight,
two of my favorite games
three
of the past
people making the best Metroidvania ever.
And I think you can still do that with bigger studios. Like you can try to find a way to have more of that direction without having to pad it all. I don't know. I hope that they can learn to start to.
Yeah, it does feel like though the budgets get bigger. The number of people in the room with opinions get bigger. You can tell that a lot of these games are kind of maybe not designed by committee, but have a lot of people, giving their input. Whereas, something like Stardew or Hollow Knight is a very small group or one person making their vision of a game. And to your point, Caden, I think the one of the most exciting things is how affordable or free that the game making tools have gotten to allow those people to make higher quality games. And so that's I'm excited about the next Unreal Engine, just in the sense of not to shill for them, but the fact that it's free before you make $1 million, like that could be massive.
I've been doing some research for a personal project, and I've been looking at different game engines and stuff, and some of them are really just so damn accessible now and so cheap, or again, like you said, free. And it's just like, as somebody who's trying to create a project, somebody who's trying to do something right now in the middle of, quarantine, no team, no nothing. And it's just like, this is doable, like more so than anything ever before, versus you take a look at these big studios making the same announcements every couple years. This is our most ambitious project ever. We're going to be pulling in talent from all across the world to create something. You have a bunch of people there already. You have these tools. You have these things. You don't need to be overly ambitious if you have a good, solid idea underneath it all. So it's like, if you have this good, solid idea, I'm happy to play a game that's 6 hours long
Totally.
and feels
Totally.
really amazing
Yeah.
versus a game that's, padded to 30, 40 hours. It's like there is that concept of, the $1 1 hour thing, but I feel that $1 1 hour thing only works for games that are like, say, it's like Apex Legends or Overwatch, where it's like, this is supposed to like get you into Destiny's another great example.
Yeah,
This is supposed to get you into a grind.
Right.
If that grind for things is fun enough, then $1 per hour makes sense. But for something that's like, I played the shit out of Undertale far and beyond the price I paid for it for the $1 1 hour thing. It's just like, I would have happily paid more for that game.
Minecraft.
Yeah, exactly.
Minecraft.
And that's and that is not to criticize people who work at these big developers like Naughty Dog. These games look amazing, and there's a lot of talented people working on this stuff. but it's just a question of this sort of corporate bloat that goes into these games, and it's like, to I think steal Connor's Hollywood point, it's like you're making everything Avengers Endgame, and that's not everybody's going to buy every video game.
And uniquely in the video games industry, when you have a scope of that, yes, people have to wait longer for games, and there are more delays. But the people that really get the butt of it is the devs, that they have to crunch more, because until they reevaluate what the end product is going to be.
Right.
When the tools get better and the computers get more powerful, I would assume, just hire fewer people to do the same jobs that used to be done with the same ambition. And so they're going to be like, oh, well, we're putting all this money in, and we have all these tools, and we have this amazing console. And it's like, yeah, but like, you need to think about the people making these games too.
Totally.
And so like,
exactly,
these enormous
always it's make it cheaper. Like, do the same thing, make it cheaper.
Right.
Most ambitious thing ever. We're going to make sure that you're paid less and you work more. It's like, that's what the whole shebang is. Like, the people who like it's all about, it's like, I hate this terminology. It's like, it's like Neil Druckmann's talking about The Last of Us 2, and it's like, it's like, hey, this is my huge thing and everything like that. It's like, please talk about all the people who made all of this actually happen. It's like, yes, you were overseeing everything. Yes, you were making all those things happen. Yes, you were doing all that stuff. However, the people who actually implemented it, the people who actually did it, the people who, found those workarounds, the things that, like the quality assurance people who made sure that the game was, one, playable, and two, like, was as seamless an experience as possible. It's like, they are the unsung heroes of the entire industry, and they continue to go unsung.
Totally.
Even to this day.
You have your sort of
frustrating.
You have your superstar director, your superstar CEO. They get all the interviews. Maybe there's one other person. I very much agree. I'm going to be interested in Cyberpunk when it comes out, because I think Cyberpunk is going to be sort of the apex of this big budget, hugely expensive AAA game that's been in development forever, and a lot of hype built up. I feel like it's going to be great, and I'm excited, but I wonder if Cyberpunk's going to be kind of a watershed moment, so it'll be interesting to see how it, and I don't know if crunching's the right word, but I'll bet a lot of people are working long hours on this game.
For sure.
Okay, we got a few minutes left. Let's do questions. Zach actually asked questions in the community tab on our YouTube page.
Oh.
So, yeah. Let's see. So, okay, this New Jew 888 Ice asks, what are your predictions for the extent of delays due to the coronavirus? So that's a really good question. And some people have said that this year, I've heard people in the industry say this year will be fine, or you won't notice it that much, but next year is really because most of the stuff that's coming out is almost done. Like, they're in the home stretch, but the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be bad. I believe that.
Would you honestly, I kind of feel okay with them, like, spreading this year a little bit thin too. And it's like, hey, we have a bunch of these projects, and I know that people need to make their quarterlies and everything like that. But, if you take a look, thinking it from a business sense and thinking about the future, you're going to take this hit sometime. wouldn't it be easier to take this hit slowly over, the next 2 years rather than just be like, well, 2020 is going to be really good for us, but 2021 is going to suck and 2022 is going to suck. If you have these games that are almost done and you have everything,
you're saying stagger them out and kind of
you really just it makes more. It's like if it's like one big game from Nintendo every it's like every quarter. They do fine. They have enough that it's in the development, and it gives them more time to actually finish some of those bigger projects that are, down the pipeline without having to worry about delaying those further or having nothing on their release schedule. Because there's nothing worse than releasing 0 things in like a quarter. Right. It's detrimental to success.
Ubisoft could tell you how that goes.
Boom.
Yeah, but doing it that way, you're also having to convince whatever board you're answering to that it's okay to do that. Like whenever you've made the studios have made promises that they're going to have games come out in 2020 and they're going to see return of investment in 2020.
Look at Blizzard and what they're going through. Yeah.
It becomes harder to go, hey, we're going to take the year off this year and stagger it to next year when
right.
You got Activision going, hey, you said money now. You said I'm getting money now, and it's.
I feel like Blizzard's an outlier though, because Blizzard's just kind of like, we'll do whatever we want, and we'll kind of get away with it because we're Blizzard.
Been feeling some heat. They've had layoffs over the last, in 2019.
Yeah, and again, that's because they haven't properly, and it speaks to what we were saying before. It's like, if you're going to do a million big budgeted things and not have anything else to release, you're going to hurt yourself.
Well, and maybe that's why, getting back to Pokemon Unite, this can't be a tough game to develop. Like the studio Timmy that's doing this, or whatever their name is in China, they've made these before. I think this is probably a way for them to put out something relatively low effort and make a buttload of money off of. And I think definitely more resources, poured into Fortnite and sort of existing, these existing games that they just sort of want us to stay on forever.
And Fortnite, I think. Okay, go ahead, Connor.
No, you can go ahead.
I was going to say, Fortnite has the, they're having the advantage of, they can now invest that money in doing events in game, like those concerts and stuff that just, come on, it's a free-to-play game.
Movies, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
Absolutely bizarre. I think Prestige is happening this week.
Oh, God.
That's so weird. But yeah, Minecraft. I mean, Sony's been dumping money, or Microsoft's been dumping money into Minecraft. Apex Legends even has managed to kind of carve out its own little niche, and they're still going. So yeah, I do think you're going to see a smaller calendar in the coming years because of that. I'm sure the delays of Cyberpunk are probably related to that.
I would imagine so, working from home. But I think judging on my own dumb, uninformed, not having ever made a game, it seems to me to make sense that we'll be seeing more things built in existing engines and existing games as services. A lot of events, a lot of iterative DLCs, maybe some sort of new game plus type of updates to games, where it'll be I don't know. And I don't want to assume that DLC is less work, but I would think that going off of the game you've already made gives you a significant boost. Moon Crash, the Prey update, was completely different, but used the same enemies and a lot of the same assets and stuff. And so maybe we'll see
good DLC too.
Just get creative with what they have.
I think the most valuable thing to an artist is limitations. I think, and once you've already made a game and you know what those limitations are, you know how you can push them, how you can play within that, and just play at the boundary the entire time.
Sure, yeah.
So I like the idea I really like the idea of reusing engines and really getting the most out of those engines. Whereas maybe the first iteration, they were trying to find out what that was capable of.
I mean, that's why
you put all that time into it.
That's why I love the
you might as well use it,
because they have those maps and they have those physics and simulations, and then they're like, okay, well, of course they have to program each simulation like clockwork, but those games, 1 to 2, there was a 2-year gap between them, and there's gonna be a 2-year gap between the next ones. When's the last time you saw a trilogy, video game trilogy, start and finish in 6 years?
Yeah.
Almost never. Like with that level of quality throughout, absolutely.
Yeah, because I get that
6
people
years-
like the first game and they want to play something like that.
And
Was
like
it
with
a
the,
little bit?
and like with the sequel to Breath of the Wild, I'm sure they're using a lot of the same,
Yeah.
stuff,
absolutely.
which is smart. It's not a bad thing. You don't have to
Was the last-
reinvent the wheel every time.
Was the last
There's
trilogy
no reason.
the
go
Ezio
ahead.
trilogy?
I
Like one of the most beloved. Like, I mean, people love the Ezio trilogy, and that's like. I would argue
No, people
love it.
do. Yeah, people absolutely
Yeah, no.
love the Ezio trilogy, and it was like boom, boom, boom. Like we have the engine. Let's make the
And
game.
then they came out
And-
with 3, and people were like, "No,
Well,
not
the thing
this
is
one."
like by the end of the Ezio trilogy, people were very tired of it. Like they got kind of tired of it with the second one, and then by the third one, they're just like, "Well, I'll finish this." Yeah, sequels do great, and you already have people bought into it and stuff like that.
Totally,
But it's
yeah.
like I do think Hitman kind of like. It's such a perfect example, Connor. It really is. It's like Hitman did everything right with the first game leading into the sequel and making sure that it's just like, here's more of the same, but also included things that, felt organic to add without being like, here, we're going to do a tower defense section in the middle of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I'm just like,
that was
no,
very strange.
No, we're not.
Yeah, I know.
We're
I
not
mean,
doing that.
And each subsequent Hitman game has and will include the levels from the previous ones. So it's like,
Which is fantastic.
They had something really great, and they were like, and they knew it, and they said, we're going to keep working off of this. So I would love to see. That would be great to me to see more games built in the existing frameworks.
I think it's I think it's a good call.
Totally.
I mean, Mario Kart, they use the same. They always have the same, recycled tracks from all the way back. They'll throw in a few new ones. And,
Right.
Brian
Smashed
having
it,
to
yeah.
bring up Mario Kart. Couldn't let you get away with
Well,
that.
also, tying what we were saying earlier, I think like what is people's favorite Pokemon games Gold and Silver? Is that
Yes.
And that completely recycled the map from the original.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, here's this entire thing that we can just use again, and that's what people have been like. Hey, do that again. Like,
I mean, it worked. The thing is, it's like, hey, here's Johto. Here's this wonderful new place to explore. All right, you finish that? How about you go back to the place that you already were in the
Why don't
last
you
game?
get your ass back to the beginning?
And then come back around. And it's just like, it's like, as much as it's just like, okay, it's recycling and so on and so forth. It's like, it felt nice. It felt just like, this feels just like after exploring this new thing, now I get to bring these new things into the old thing.
Right.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Right.
I love this.
It feels like they didn't take something away from you. Like,
right.
Yeah, it feels like additive rather than just sort of like a rerun.
So long as that yes and feels
There
natural,
you go.
then it's great.
Yep. All right. Well, that is all the time we've got for Sim News this week. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
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 There's always that
Cheers.
awkward pause before the bye. Bye, guys.
And we are joined by Troy Baker, the voice of Joel in The Last of Us.
Or according to Brian, just Joel.
He did say that earlier, yeah.
Just Joel. And this guy. Let him know what his fucking name is.
I would say it's a brain fart, but that's all my brain is farts.
It's just one fart.
Yeah.
Just